go ahead and call the Tuesday, February 14th, 2023 meeting of the Midtown Redevelopment Board. We will have a roll call.
Sean Collins.
Here.
Tangela Hardy.
Here.
Joan Shepherd.
Here.
Renee Richardson.
Here.
Kathy Washington. Nathan McGullough.
Present.
Davita Barner.
Here.
Lynn Thompson. You have a quorum.
Mr. Chair, we understood from before the meeting that Ms. Washington wants to attend remotely. I don't know if she's hearing this.
I sent her the link. She's providing it.
And it's actually a minute before 6, but when she appears on the link, she'll have to state why she needs to attend remotely, and then the board members who are present will need to move to allow her attendance as an extraordinary circumstance.
Okay. So when she chimes in, give somebody. Okay. All right. Sounds good. We will have a invocation followed by the Pledge of Allegiance. Have everybody stand. I'll lead us with the invocation.
Let us pray. God of grace and God of glory, we come before your presence at this moment, at this hour. God, we thank you for the opportunity to be able to serve on this redevelopment board. We thank you for the leadership of our city. We thank you, dear God, for our staff. Now, God, as we come together, we need your divine direction. We need your divine guidance. Lead us in everything that we do, that your name might be glorified. In your name we pray. Amen.
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 Pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, we got a couple of action items. The first one is the election of a chairman and vice chairman for the year. And I guess we'll open the floor for nominations and go from there. I have a motion. Ms. Hardy?
I have a motion to nominate Mr. Collins as chair and Mr. McGullough as co-chair.
Is there a second?
I second it.
Supposed to be
Any
the
discussion?
coach,
Being none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Thank you for the vote of confidence, and I appreciate that. I promise you this will be my last year on the board. I'm making that statement right now. My term ends in December, and so it'll be perfect for that. So hopefully I'll go out with somewhat of a bang. But I appreciate the vote of
we can make
confidence.
allowances for you to stay a little bit longer.
No, we got what, 100,000 folk in this city? I think we'd easily replace Sean Collins. Yeah.
Mr. Chair, I've just been advised that Ms. Washington is now connected, so you'll want to ask
Yes.
Ms. Washington to explain her need to attend remotely, and then the board would need to approve majority vote for her attendance.
Ms. Washington, are you there?
Yes, I am.
Welcome aboard. We're sorry we
Thank
couldn't see
you.
your beautiful face tonight, but can you state for the record why you're not able to attend, and we will go from there after we listen to your.
Sure.
Everything.
I was displaced as a result of Hurricane Ian, and I think this is the last meeting that I'll be doing Zoom. I should be moving back home by the end of this week, but I'm out of pocket, and I don't drive at night. I don't see well at night.
I got you. Yeah, we want you to be safe. So
Yes.
do we take a vote on that? How do we do this?
Somebody would need to move
Motion.
to allow Ms. Washington to attend remotely based on extraordinary circumstances. Be a second, and then you would all vote in favor or against.
We heard what Mr. Gross says. And is there a motion?
I'd like to make that motion, please.
Is there a second?
A second.
Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Welcome aboard, Ms. Washington. Please chime in.
Thank you.
And help me out sometime. Lynn Thompson will tell you I have a tendency to forget that you're there. And so I wish there was some kind of red light or some kind of buzzer you can buzz me in or something. But I want you all to help me out to remember that I need to refer to Ms. Washington when we're going to comments. Okay, thank you.
And Mr. Chair, my understanding is that typically when somebody does appear remotely, there's a little bit of a time lag
Okay,
for them in terms of hearing what you all have to say. So
okay, okay, okay.
point that out as well.
Thank you. All right, we have approval of the minutes. I'm assuming everybody's had a chance to review them. We've had them in a week in advance. Let's take a motion first, and we'll discuss any changes after that. Is there a motion to approve the January?
Mr. Chair, I move that we approve the minutes with the necessary corrections.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Any corrections, omissions? There being none, all those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you. Staff reports. We'll start with Lieutenant Conti and followed by Ms. Kirk. You're on board, sir. Police Department.
Good evening, members. Thank you for having me.
Sir.
Captain Condi, Daytona Beach Police Department. I'll provide you the most recent ComStat reports for time period ending in January of 2023. When compared to the same time frame, 2022 to 2023, there have been no change in homicides. Our auto thefts have increased 156%.
Wow.
Our overall burglaries have decreased 44%. Our larcenies have decreased 12%. Our robberies have decreased 33%. Our overall aggravated assaults and batteries have increased 177%. Our sexual offenses are breaking even at 0%. Our overall Part 1 crimes have increased 17%. And our calls for service have increased 16%. So between January 1st and January 28th, District 1 Daytona Beach Police have handled over 5,564 calls for service during that time frame. Now, the most obvious number that everyone gasped at was the auto thefts, an increase of 156%. And that's one of the things that I'd like to discuss with everyone here, because we definitely need the assistance of every single board member and of the general public. We are experiencing a horrific trend, and it's not solely in the city of Daytona Beach. It's actually nationwide. There are two vehicle manufacturers that have a weakness. They don't qualify for recall because it's not technically considered a safety hazard. But if you own a late model Hyundai or a late model Kia, they are susceptible to auto thefts. And I can tell you, after reviewing the captain's reports for the last 6 to 7 months, the trend is consistent and ongoing, and it's unfortunately not just us, it is across the nation. Every single jurisdiction within the state of Florida and across the U.S. unfortunately have seen this incredible spike in auto thefts.
Let me ask you something. You said there hasn't been a push for recall. I'm thinking of a class action suit coming because just for the insurance rates, they're going to be jacked up.
So that's one of the things that I actually have some information on. I don't have the specific city, but there is a class action lawsuit currently outside of the state of Florida where, because of this increased trend in auto thefts, in one city in particular, I don't want to provide wrong information, but they had somewhere between 500 to 600 auto thefts within 1 month time frame.
Wow. That's
So-
a ring.
That's terrifying, unfortunately.
Yeah, I can't see that being random. That's a ring. It sound like to me.
I just heard tonight that those two auto agencies have come out with a fix on the news tonight.
Yes, so Kia and Hyundai both offer, for a minimal cost, some counter safety measures for it, so they can prevent the auto thefts. It would be up to the, respective owners to choose if they want to do it or not. But one thing that I wanted to go over was just some preventative measures that the general public could use to try to curb this issue. And it's not solely for these two vehicle manufacturers, it's just good practice for anyone. So obviously, first and foremost is locking your vehicles, making sure that you're leaving your vehicles locked, activating the alarm, making sure that you don't leave a spare key inside of the glove compartment or the key holder, not to mention hiding your valuables, either taking them inside or securing them inside of your trunk. But one thing I think people do forget is the garage door opener. So if you have it programmed into your visor, some of the cars do have that, or if you have one of the portable, keys for the outside, just make sure to secure that and bring that inside as well, because that would allow them not only to break into your car, but also to break into your house. In addition to that, I know it's a little old school, but a steering wheel lock. I remember back when I was a kid, back in Jersey, you know, everybody had the club.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, we're going to have to go to some more primitive measures to try to prevent these auto thefts. And, you know, one of these wheel locks will hopefully deter the thieves. As you stated, there is a security kit that was recently released by Hyundai and Kia. You would have to contact your local dealership to try to schedule that service. This is in no way an endorsement of any kind, but I would recommend it for those that do own this vehicle to try to curb these auto thefts. Practicing, you know, simple safety measures, parking in a secured access lot or a personal garage if you have one. If you have to park outside, find an area that is well lit, ideally under a security camera if it's available. If you're going to park it inside of your driveway, have motion sensor lights, have any kind of exterior surveillance cameras, and then obviously the more costly options are, you know, purchasing services like OnStar or LoJack. So God forbid if it was stolen, you'd be able to deactivate the car and
Right.
locate it.
So I thought I saw hands raised.
No.
Okay.
And one final thing is that there are actually 2 large insurance companies that are no longer providing coverage for new policies for these vehicles. So if you do, just be cautious of it.
Wow. Any questions for Lieutenant Conti?
I think I had a question regarding the person shot. It's showing 700%. And it looks like the same time last year, it was only one person. In 2022, 2023, you already have, what, 8 persons?
8 subjects shot. Now, it depends on the actual UCR reporting. You can, not to get into the weeds about it, but you can potentially charge someone with a crime, but it may not necessarily meet the UCR code or vice versa. So it could be a person that was shot, but it wasn't a lethal shot. Obviously, our homicides, you know, there wasn't a significant increase, but it would depend on the incident itself. Unfortunately, you know, we are seeing an increase in violence, you know, the accessibility to weapons. One other thing is, you know, unfortunately, people leaving their firearms inside of cars.
Right.
When they are broken into, when they are stolen, now you have a stolen firearm in the street. But overall, there's no significant trend. It's not like an ongoing feud or anything like that. There's nothing identifiable. The majority of them were just single or isolated incidents.
Any comments? I apologize for demoting you. You're captain.
Sorry.
I do have something I want to ask you, and I'm not trying to put you on the spot, but I would be remiss if I didn't talk about it.
Understood.
The incidents that's happening in Memphis with Tyree Nichols. Unless you've been living under a rock, you don't know what I'm talking about. It's pretty egregious. Again, you don't have to comment, but what are your thoughts on that?
Well, I can tell you without doubt, if you have a heart and a soul, what you observed on video was absolutely tragic and unnecessary. I wasn't present for it,
Right.
but I think anybody that saw what happened can absolutely see that it was just beyond atrocious. It was immoral, it was illegal. And I will say, fortunately, they are taking immediate action. Some of the people that were involved will have already been arrested or fired pending further. But as far as the Daytona Beach Police Department goes, I can't speak obviously for the chief, but I would absolutely guarantee that he would concur with me, is that this is not how we operate. That is not how police officers operate. Unfortunately, there's always going to be that very, very small percentage of those that, although they carry the badge on the gun, don't abide by the same ethics and code of conduct that the 99% do. So the only thing that I would ask is, don't judge the entirety based on the singular. That's the one thing that I would say. But it's horrendous to watch. It turned my stomach, honestly.
Yeah. The part that got me the most was that even though the body cameras were running, it didn't stop a lot of the stuff that were going on. I mean, it's almost like they were saying, well, we know we're being videotaped, and this is what the culture, they've been talking about the culture. They're saying they're going to be covered by the culture. You know, we're good, you know, because you know, there's some things you get in a situation and you just kind of act normal, and those guys were acting normal. You know, that was not a first-time incident, which leads me to my second question. What is the procedure for Daytona Beach when a police officer has a complaint, particularly a use of force complaint? Is that just kind of, you check off a box, we have the complaint in the file, and that's it? How is that done? I know you have a police review board, and I don't know much about it. I know Mr. Lewis is on my previous predecessor. I think he's on that board, Pierre Lewis and some other people and stuff. But I'm just interested in you know, how are those things handled when complaints like that come, particularly use of force complaints?
So it would depend on the specific criteria or the specific incident. Every use of force that occurs within our police department is documented, and there's a separate database that we document everything that is involved in that call. So everything from pictures to video. If a firearm or a taser was used, that specific information is downloaded into the program. All of the Axon body-worn cameras are submitted. All of the reports, supplements, anything that pertaining to that incident is attached to this program, and it's completed by a lieutenant, forwarded to a captain, and then depending on the criteria, are there violations, are there no violations? Now, I will say, unfortunately, sometimes use of force is justified. It's not the preferred option. Obviously, we would prefer to de-escalate every situation, but sometimes it is out of our control for lack of, you know, the subject's compliance. But if it is a sustained use of force issue, meaning there is a violation of policy, then it would depend on how egregious it was, the discipline history of the officer. Was it a lack of training? Was it, you know, there's a lot of different things that would be taken into consideration, but it's a very broad answer to give me, you know, for me to give you an exact pinpoint answer. But I can tell you this much: everything that we do in the police department is subject to sunshine law. So if there is a complaint of any kind, doesn't matter if it's small or large, you know, everything is documented. So in the events of use of force or something like that, everything is documented, and depending on what the findings are, it can potentially lead to either discipline or a combination of discipline and training, or worst case scenario, the termination of an officer.
And final question, which leads me, you're talking about documentation, which is my final question. You know, the George Floyd bill includes the database, the national database, tracking police officers who get fired from Holly Hill and then try to get on with South Daytona. How do you all track that when you all get new hires? Do you all do any kind of background check from their previous employers and things of that sort?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
So every applicant, no matter if it's a first-time hire or if it's, you know, what you would call a crossover from another department to the next, there's an extensive background history that's done. They do more than just the criminal background history search. They also delve into social media and, you know, some of the resources, some of the, you know, depending on what position they're applying for, you know, do they go out and speak to people? But it's extensive. You know, we do our best to obviously avoid any potential issues ahead of time. To go back to one of the other questions is, in the event that an officer is found, for lack of a better word, guilty of a violation, depending on the severity of the violation or under what category it would fall, our Department of Professional Standards makes a notification to the Criminal Justice Board. That way, it's attached to that officer's police certification.
Jacket.
Potentially, you know, barring them from continuing as a police officer, or it'll show that there was a sustained violation of a specific directive.
And for the record, I've been living in the city for a minute, and I've never had any complaints from the Daytona about the police department that I considered valid. And so you all, you know, you come with high honors from me.
I appreciate
You
it.
do a wonderful job, because I think as small as this community is, we would have heard about a lot of the stuff that goes on. You know, so I've not heard that, but I'm just one person. But I know I've heard nothing but good things about the police department.
Thanks, sir.
Yeah. Any other comments, questions? Oh, yes.
I'm just out of curiosity, what is the financial investment into each new officer that we uphold for Daytona Beach?
I wouldn't be able to give you an exact number, but what I can tell you is they're vetted and, you know, they go through the hiring process. They have to complete physical ability tests. They are paid from the moment that they begin through the academy process up until they reach the phase 1 portion, which means they're going out onto the road with a field training officer. but I would not be able to give you an exact number because it would depend. If there are special events and there's an extension, if they don't do well and there's an extension, if they're injured, or if they fail a specific section of the academy. So I think the hourly rate right now is somewhere around $22, $23 an hour, so it would just depend.
I'm not quite sure you grasp my meaning. What I'm meaning is, no, not salary. The company I work for, we break it down into what is our investment into each employee to get them so that they can go and do their job proficiently. And the company I work for is $178,000 per individual to get them to be able to get out on the floor and get to, make a profit for the company.
I understand your question, but unfortunately, I don't have that exact figure.
Okay.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Very welcome.
Appreciate it. Ms. Kirk, is she here?
I spoke with Ms. Kirk on last Tuesday. She apologized for not being able to attend January. She said that she would be here tonight, but she did mention that getting back into the schedule of attending is why she didn't attend in January, and I'm almost sure that's what happened tonight because her intent was to be here to give her report.
Okay, fair enough. Well, you're on board, Ms. Tolliver.
I do not have any projects to report, but I do want to share that on February 25th, next Saturday, there is a volunteer group sponsored by Food Brings Hope with Ms. Husseini's group. They're doing a beautification cleanup along Dr. Bethune Boulevard from Ridgewood west as far as they can go. And they're going to have a large number of volunteers. They've been putting this together for the past month, but they're just going to beautify that strip, mainly because the FDOT went to them and asked for certain locations in the city of Daytona, and Dr. Bethune Boulevard was chosen as one location that they want to improve.
Okay. It was FDOT?
Yes, FDOT has a small amount of funds and $5,000 that they were looking for locations, and that's just one of the locations to beautify the street.
I'm not mad at them, but they're usually responsible for state roads. I know
yeah.
MLB is not one, but that's fine.
And this was a cleanup effort more so
fine.
than, it was just they're targeting certain areas in the city of Daytona. They went to this group and say identify certain locations, and one of the locations is Dr. Bethune Boulevard.
Okay.
February 25th, and they're going to start at 8 o'clock, and that's just for information purposes.
And, well, you piqued my curiosity here. So you're saying DOT has some money?
Yes, when it comes to cleaning up a street, they do. But
Okay, that's
now
all I
in
need.
terms of other funds,
Can you help and get me that contact person that's handling that grant for
Yeah.
DOT, please? That's all I need. And we can get $5,000 for MLB, we can get $5,000 for MLK, we can get some money for George Ingram. If the worst thing can happen is that they tell me no, I'll take that. Okay,
but
thank
I
you.
don't have anything else. That's it.
Okay. We have now Spotlight on Midtown. We'll start with Lola's Grocery, and we have tonight representing Lola's Grocery, Ms. Polifer Harding and Mr. Andre Holly. And I apologize if I said the names incorrectly. So come on board.
Good evening, everyone. We are the new leasees of 301 South Dr. Martin Luther King Boulevard. We actually operate two businesses there. We have a food truck and also the convenience store.
Just to give a reference, that the one on Orange and MLK?
Yes,
Okay.
right on that corner.
Yeah, that's the.
He has it
Oh,
on
that's.
monitor there.
I can't. Okay, I can't.
Right.
All I see is that pretty face. I'm sorry. Okay. All right. Just want to make sure we got the geography right. Okay. Wow. So y'all just took over the lease for that building?
Yes, we have a 3-year lease with the owner. We're not really new to Daytona. I've been here since 2008, my husband since 2006. One of the things that I love about the area is the police presence on the weekends. That gave me a sense of security because I'm coming out of a banking world into something. The only thing I would like to see more of is not just only on weekends, but also during the week. We also have the center across the street that they're developing, which is going to be beautiful. But we also have a lot of homeless people on that street also, which carries a lot of like grocery carts with all kind of trash, which they litter along the street. So I don't know, what our options are.
Well, this is where you start, right? And go to the city commission meeting as well.
Okay.
Because unless you tell them, they're not gonna know, and that's all I can tell you. So
Okay.
This is a good start here.
Okay.
So tell us about your business.
We are originally from Jamaica. So my husband does, 80% of the cooking. We are a Jamaican food truck. Everything is done on the grill, jerk. The grocery store part, I operate. We are open from Monday through Saturday. The hours vary. Both as well. It's 2 Saturdays. The food is really good.
So in that neighborhood, you get a lot of foot traffic?
A lot of foot traffic. And one of my concerns too is with the center across the street, there's a lot of kids that get off the school bus there that goes. And a lot of times they don't obey, not the kids, the traffic. They don't obey the school bus. They try to catch that red light right there. They try to beat it every time. And we have a lot of kids on the street there.
Now, they going on Orange or they going on MLK?
Sometimes going either way.
Really?
Yep, they're always trying to cut, sometimes they try to cut out the light and go through our parking lot. Yes. So that's kind of a concern as well, especially with that park, that they're developing.
The club they come to is mine. I operate the Boys and Girls Club there inside
Okay.
that building, the Johnny Dickinson Community Center. Hopefully, once they get the outside renovated, our stop will move back to its original location, which is the far right side of the building.
Okay.
So that should alleviate the problem.
Where they're getting off at and stuff?
Yeah.
Okay. Good. Any questions for Ms. Hardy? Well, like I said, definitely take your issues to the city commission about the homelessness there.
Okay.
And that's really a big buzzword for the city. The commissioners are really honing in on homelessness. And so you may be pointing out an issue that they were not aware of. So please do that.
Thank you.
And your commissioner for that area is Ms. Reed.
Okay.
I don't know if you met her. She's good. Please meet her. Call her up. She'll be happy to come and talk with you.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Just to let you know, I noticed that Captain Conte had written down that information for you.
Oh,
Yeah.
thank you.
Get to know him on a first name basis.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you for coming. Next on board is Miss Sierra Gates from Celebrity Cuts on Dr. Mary McLeod Bethune Boulevard. Is that person here? They're not here? Okay. Sorry to miss them. Now we'll go into old business 9A, discussion of the board's needs plan.
That was a carryover from the item that you added in January.
Right. I guess we need to, one of the things that we were talking about last month was trying to set some regular, things to do during the course of the year. Like, I guess the elections will from now on, were the elections supposed to be a different time?
It was actually December.
Okay, so
Yeah.
so that's what I'm talking. So we'll know December coming up this year, we'll have the election of officers. We were talking about the budget last time and preparation, and Mr. Thomas told us they're already in the budget process now. And so that's one of the things we want to talk about or get on our agenda on a regular basis. Start talking about what are the projects we'd like to have funded if possible. And we were saying that the project list is supposed to come from our strategic plan, our master plan. And so we need to get familiar with that project. One of the things I pointed out was that, and when I think we're going to be discussing it later on, I think it is. But one of the things that's in the strategic plan was to come up with a database that's really tied to a GIS system of all the businesses in the Midtown area, and give a little information about them, the owners, how long they've been in business, you know, what they do, what they sell, what services they provide. And it's a way for anybody that goes to our website, the city's website, if they want to know what's going on in Midtown, they can go to the city's website, click on that map or your database, and find out what's going on. So those are the kind of things we were looking to start doing on this board. And it's just a way of always having something to do. Because there were years we were on this board, and you asked all 7 of us what was our charge, and you get 7 different responses. And that's not healthy. Doesn't make sense. And I always go back to what I was trained to do, which is transportation stuff. And every one of our boards knew what their charge was. We were basically responsible for the needs plan, and then that needs plan became a cost feasible plan, because the needs plan has a gazillion dollars worth of projects. You only have $500 million in money, then you got to cut that back. And so you start with the needs plan, the wish list that if you had all the money in the world, these are the projects we want funded, and then you narrow that list down to something that's feasible. And that ties into the budget, obviously. And so those are the kind of things I was looking to have this board get involved in, and provide the staff with some assistance, You're responsible for leading this charge. That's not their responsibility, but our responsibility is also to give them some advice on what we should be doing. And that was the genesis of what we're doing. And I just want to go around and see how everybody feel about it. I've got some comments later on, but I'll just start. Ms. Hardy? McGowan.
I wanted to go back. I think initially we have to, I guess, identify for some of the actually planning on maybe redevelopment board. We are directed to that if there's anything that you have worked on in regards to resources to be able to do those projects that we.
Are you referring to the list from last year that
Right.
each member provided?
Right.
I have not worked on any resources to support those projects, but some of them have been moving forward in terms of identifying property. And then later, I think there were 2 properties recently that we've identified as potential locations for retail or housing needs, but no, not specifically, but some projects have moved forward.
Is one of those properties on the corner of MMB and Kitsch?
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
Okay. All right.
Reverend McGullough, would you speak into the mic, please?
I'm sorry, I forgot that you are. I was asking regarding the items that we actually presented before, and Ms. Tolliver just mentioned that there's some that are already in the works, and I asked if one of them is the one that is on the corner of MMB and Keach Street, and she says yes. And I passed by there, I think yesterday. I noticed that the land has been cleared.
All right.
Yeah. And we're also working on a list of 24 lots that have the potential to have single-family homes. But the list itself included some of that, but not everything on the list has been a resource identified to make the project happen.
I'm glad you chimed in, Ms. Washington. Please, I'll let you add your thoughts on what we're talking about.
Well, I concur with Reverend McGullough. Being new to the board, I'm still learning. And I was taught before we can plan projects, we have to find the money. So I would like to see that that money has been identified to do projects, and we don't promise a project or lean towards promising a project until we're really sure that we can do it.
Did you have any, maybe not any specificities, but any generalities as far as the type of projects you were interested in pursuing?
None specifically. In last month's meeting, if we get just one of those projects off the board, it would be a joy and an enhancement to the community. So I don't have any in mind.
Okay, that's fair enough. We'll go to Ms. Bonner.
Well, I know that we did work on the resources, and I remember that was very valuable, what we did with that. I just think over time, not only with the resources, but just narrowing down exactly what we want to do, I think we're off to a good start. It's just a matter of continuing to look at the resources and the finance picture. I do agree with Ms. Washington definitely on that piece.
Okay. Ms. Richardson?
I wish I knew more about what was actually going on as far as housing in our area. Housing is something that we need extensively. I understand about the lots. I understand about building. I'm just very concerned about the time frame and how long it takes to obtain a lot or to see if the lot is feasible to build on. It's just taking so long, and we have so many homeless families. And I wish it was a way that we could just move it a little quicker, or just figure out a way that we could circumvent some things. Think outside of the box. I know that we have to go a traditional way, but it still should be a way that we could think outside of the box to be able to help families to obtain, whether it's affordable housing. We definitely need affordable. We don't need any more luxury apartments, or even now, I've seen where we have builders building homes that are for rent, and they are not for purchase. They will never be for purchase. They will only be for rent. And I called and asked the prices of them. And I don't know how a family could pay $2,200, $2,800, and $3,300 for a home to rent. So I just think that we just collectively should get together and be able to think outside of the box, how to be able to help, housing, our housing crisis. It is all over the nation, I know that. But we still have to be able to help people. We just have so many families in cars, and we don't have enough shelters to house people. We don't have enough, apartment complexes, especially with losing, Caroline Village. We're going to lose that. That's 80-something units. That's a lot of families that will not be able to go back there. And I know that they're looking to be able to put some properties other places, but I just think that we should be able to think outside of the box. I go back again to, Pine Haven. I know the hawk is in the air. I know it's in the nest, but we should be able to say to the environmental services or the forestry, whoever gets the animals, the endangered species, can't they move it so that we would be able to have human beings having homes or apartments or something that is affordable? Because that's a lot of land. It's a lot of land, and I understand
I
it's a hawk.
concur.
It's a hawk. I understand, or eagle,
It's an
whatever
eagle.
it is.
It's eagle.
Eagle, hawk, whatever. It's endangered.
Yeah.
Whatever the species is
Yeah.
endangered. We don't want to bother that, but I know it has to be a way that we could move it.
I think
That we
The eggs are hatched. I've seen them flying.
Well, we still should be able to move it, to be able to, it's a lot of land, you know, and Caroline Village, that's a lot of land when people are not gonna rebuild there. It's a lot, and it is in the dead center of Midtown. This is our community. We should be able to think outside of the box to do something for housing. I went to a meeting last week with the school system at the it's out on John, out by the jail or the prison, wherever it is, the school system. I went out there to sit in on a meeting. There are a lot of children that have been displaced in hotels or in cars that are now not able to ride the bus. They're trying to figure out how to get the children back to the schools that they're supposed to be at because they're missing. Because the children are either in cars, they're in hotels, they're in tents, they're in the woods. We have children. And we should be able to think of a way to be able to help families to just be able to get affordable housing. That's always going to be my heartstring, is just being able to have families and people to have a roof over their head, because if you don't have a roof over your head, you cannot pick anything else up.
You're not worrying about studying, that's for sure. On that point, are we in contact, or do we have any kind of, I guess, memorandum of agreement, if you will, with the Housing Authority, coordination in any way? I know we have a presence on the board, the city does. Are there regular reports given to the city commission? How is that information, relayed, if you will, between the Housing Authority and the city of Daytona Beach? Or is it just kind of, again, one of those boxes you check off? We have membership, and so we're following Florida statutes.
I'm not aware of any, Mr. Chair, Ken Thomas, Redevelopment Director. I'm not aware of any obligation that they have to come, make a report to the City Commission. However, recently, just a week ago, city manager and myself and staff met with the Housing Authority to go over their short term goals and as well as their long term. And so the property was mentioned where the Eagles are located, and they are working on it. It's their property. They have to work within the guidelines of the federal government. So that's not going to be a process that's going to get done anytime soon. I can tell you that now. It's not going to happen anytime soon.
So they actually discussed that when
Oh yeah, absolutely.
They did?
They've been working on it, but it's not up to them.
And did they mention the federal agency that's kind of controlling that land now?
No, they own the land.
But I'm saying who's controlling it? They're controlling because they want to do something with the land, but they can't do it because of some federal guidelines.
It's the Endangered Species Act, Mr. Chair.
Okay.
And the U.S. Fish and Wildlife
So that's
Commission
it.
controls it nationally.
Okay.
And has delegated a portion of its authority to, I think, the Florida Fish and Wildlife. We have a Fish and Wildlife Commission as well. So.
The reason I bring this up, again, going back to my previous life, manatees are kind of in the same, I guess, stratosphere as the eagles. I've seen interstates built, interchanges built. When you have manatees in danger, they somehow are able to still build it. So I know things are able to proceed even when endangered species are in the line of the design. I know that for a fact. And so what I'm saying is that maybe at the very least, could we try and get someone from the Housing Authority to come and speak to us, and we can maybe start a conversation, if you will, because those are kind of discussions that I think this board is suited for. Because redevelopment, again, I've always said it's not just necessarily brick and mortar. It's not. It's basically feelings and community involvement and connections and all that stuff. And so if we can do that, that would be great. And I know about a couple of years ago, early on to my tenure, we had I don't know if it was the executive director at the time or maybe the person over housing they came and spoke to us. And so that's something I would recommend if anybody has any issue with that we ask the staff to invite somebody from the Housing Authority to come and speak in general about the short-term goals, but more specifically about what Ms. Richardson was talking about, the housing issue and homelessness.
I think that would be a great idea.
Thank you, Ms.
I think that would be a great idea. I'd like to see movement, and I do understand very well the eagles and how much we care about wildlife, how much the United States cares about wildlife. But at the same time, I'm concerned about the homeless problem we have here in the city of Daytona Beach. I grew up in Pine Haven.
Okay.
And every time I pass it now, my heart just sinks because that was a place where thousands of kids went through and were developed and went out to be prosperous individuals in the community.
Yes. I think you get concurrence here by everybody in Washington. So, and staff has indicated they're gonna make that effort, and we appreciate that. You have something to say, Ms. Hardy?
I had two questions in one statement, make as far as that goes. I guess starting with the situation about the apartment complex.
Would you speak in the microphone?
I'm so sorry to say, but I wasn't aware of what's going on as far as that goes, so I feel like the oddball out with that one. As far as the apartment complex you were talking about in the endangered species, can you elaborate more on that?
Pine Haven, that is on MMB, Mary McLeod Bethune, and Keach Street. All of the area where you come off of Cypress or you come off of George Ingram, and all of that open space that's behind Pine Haven. That was initially supposed to be either homes to come up there or more apartments, but they stopped, midstream, and I found out that it was not feasible to build there because it's a hawk or eagle. I'm sorry, an eagle that has an active nest. So as long as the eagle has an active nest, it's endangered and you can't move it. My question would be, fish, wildlife, and endangered species, that group, can they come? It has to be a loophole somewhere. It has to be something somewhere that supersedes, not saying to do anything to the eagle, but it has to be, especially when we have human beings that need places to live. We want to at least be able to move it to a different area so that we could build up that area. It is a lot of land.
Yeah.
It's a lot of land.
Yes. Yes.
They took away a lot, just like Caroline Village, took away a massive amount of apartments and put back a quarter, not even a quarter of what was there. So we have so many homeless people, and we have a lot of luxury apartments that's out of the range, affordable for people that cannot afford that. It is 3 times the amount. You have to make 3 times the amount of the rent to just get in it. And nobody can afford to do that, but there's no affordable housing. And all of the places that are affordable are now being torn down. Caroline Village, that's a massive loss. And we're gonna have a lot of people that are coming out of the hotels. The Housing Authority is not gonna pay for the hotels anymore after the end of this month. All of those families living in the hotels will be coming out and they will be homeless. It's a concern, and it's a concern for all of us because that's a safety measure for us. It is a health measure because COVID is still happening. We have children that's going in school systems. We're having children that's not being able to be found, and they're in woods, they're in cars. This is not right. We should be able to come up with something to, it has to be something that can be done. So if the Fish and Wildlife, that agency, have them to come and speak with us. Have them to come and speak with the city.
You got me thinking as well, and that can be a problem. But I'm also thinking of the school board representative, maybe trying to reach out to them as well.
Yeah. They're concerned.
And sometimes my problem is that I reveal what I'm trying to do, and I probably shouldn't, but I think, and maybe this has been tried already, bringing all the pertinent agencies together, like we're talking about the school board, the housing authority, the city of Daytona Beach, the county, and discussing just this narrowed down problem. We're not trying to, we'd like to solve homelessness, but maybe we can just solve this niche of the problem in our area here, you know. And just get this discussion going, because what I know is that you definitely have an opportunity for huge economies of scale. It just means that if City of Daytona Beach got some money and the school board has some ideas, then they may not have the money for it, but the city does, and so they can kind of merge those resources together, economies of scale, but also just maybe one hand not knowing what the other hand is doing, you know. And so if we can at least try to make that effort to reach out to the school board and the housing authority and tell them specifically what we're talking about. We've got kids literally going to school after sleeping in the car.
Yeah.
I don't see how anybody's gonna be thinking about schoolwork after sleeping in the car the night before. Yeah. That's almost impossible. You know, you gotta be a potential Einstein. But if we could do that, I'd appreciate it. At least make an effort. Okay. Anything else on that? Thank you, Ms. Richardson. Ms. Shepherd.
Thank you, Chairman. I'll try not to be long-winded.
Take your time.
I think that there might be a workaround with the Fish and Wildlife. I'm going to Google the hell out of it, pardon my language, and see if I can't come up with something, you know me and the Googler. My wish list item is Ingram Road between Nova and, I don't know, maybe Martin Luther King Boulevard is full of potholes. It's just horrid. Mm-hmm. And that's my wish list item, okay? I have to drive that way to work twice a day, and the car is just not taking it too well.
Say the road again, Ms.
It's on Ingram between, if you go east on Ingram from Nova, right, coming down past the rec center, it's a bad section there. And I'll just finish up by saying that I have a question. On our city site, do we have, is there a space to put like links for the businesses that are in the Midtown district? If they have a site, maybe we can, you know, put a link to their site on it and generate, because it's all about getting the word out.
Well, I think we're going to be talking about that a little bit on item 10A, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay, that's all I have.
Really? Okay.
Yeah.
Sure. That's fine. I thought you had 2 pages or something.
That was it.
All right. I don't know if I got to use that.
Well, I think I just wanted to follow up question on Renee Richardson talking about Garland Village. And this question is directed to Ken Thomas. With the meeting that you had with the Housing Authority, did they state at any point what they plan on doing those families that live in Garland Village when they can no longer live in that area? I mean, for the sake of those who are, you know, watching.
Is it the one, you know, next to the school, Terry T?
Garland Village is the one that's closest to
It's across from Campbell.
That's correct.
Across from Campbell.
Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead.
I actually talked with the CEO, Mr. Woodyard, yesterday and today, and Ken will say, yeah, I remember now. A lot has happened since our meeting. The Housing Authority Board has a retreat on Thursday, and the CEO is presenting what he's recommending to them to do with Caroline Village, as well as other, including the Eagle, aggressively pursuing, trying to get some type of decision other than they can't build. But the retreat is Thursday, and he's presenting a short-term plan and a long-term plan. And to mention it now without the, and having him come next month is almost perfect timing, because he would have had some direction, hopefully, from his board. But he's presenting a short-term plan and a long-term plan. I think the short-term plan, if I'm remembering correctly, is to bring some of the families back into Caroline Village until they can find a permanent location for them. And that number, I don't know what that number is right now, but they do not want to long-term invest in an area that is going to continue to flood. But for the short time, the families that are in hotels and who are living with family members, they're trying to bring them back temporarily. But the plan is being presented to the Housing Authority Board on Thursday.
Okay. Thank you.
Anything else? I have nothing else to add. We're going to item 10A, discuss proposal for database of Midtown business owners.
Mr. Chair, at our last meeting, we talked about how can we communicate to the local businesses in the Midtown community, CRA. And right now, we don't have a database. We don't have a mechanism to reach out to them and send surveys or ask for their opinions. However, in the downtown CRA, we do have a database. And so why not just piggyback on what they're doing? And so we've asked Gold Marketing to put together a proposal so that we could create that for Midtown. Okay. And what you have before you tonight is a proposal that I want you guys to, everyone to look at, and if you had any comments, we just wanted you all to weigh in on it. If you did have comments, this is not something that we're asking for you to approve tonight, but just to give your input, because we still have a little ways to go before we put together an actual agreement, and as well recommend this to our City Commission CRA board for approval. But this is the body of what we would be doing regarding how we would put this together. It would be a business-to-business marketing program.
Am I missing something? I don't, what am I looking at?
The very back.
It's in there?
Yeah, very back.
It's in the
This
back.
one.
Very back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
There we go.
Yeah. So I'll just go through what Mr. Gold sort of created to give an outline of what a canvassing proposal would look like regarding how we would reach out to all of the businesses in Midtown, and that is on Dr. Bethune Boulevard as well as Dr. Bethune Boulevard as well as Dr. King Boulevard. In their estimation, we may have over 300 businesses in the corridors. I think it was a study that was done several years back that indicated we had just over 200. But in their estimate, we probably would have close to maybe 400 businesses, but that remains to be seen. But in this overview, or at least canvassing proposal, they would go door to door, and if the proprietor is at the location, they can get information, and they would build their database on that. If not, they would leave door hangers, they would leave flyers. They would do an extensive outreach to try to get this information. And it wouldn't just go to one section of the community. They would hit every business that's on Dr. King and Dr. Bethune Boulevard, every business. They wouldn't miss one. The only entities that would be left out, if it's a residential, because we do have residential on Dr. King Boulevard, and we have commercial right next door, as well as Dr. Bethune too. We have a few of those on the corridor too. They wouldn't be included in this, but we would definitely capture all of the businesses on those two corridors. And so this process, in their estimation, the canvassing probably would take 4 weeks. Thereafter, they would have to build a database, and building the database, that's probably another 60 days or so. Altogether, they're estimating it probably would take 90 days to complete this process. And with that said, we'll be willing to answer any questions if you have any.
I'll start, Ms. Bonner.
I don't have one right now.
Ms. Richardson.
Nope, I don't have any as well.
Ms. Shepherd.
I can only speak for myself. I'm going to get the word out to the businesses. That's where I live, so I'm going to be running my mouth.
Good. Please. Reverend Magala.
No question.
Ms. Hardy.
No questions, but I do think it's a great idea to move forward and see if we can get the same plan for the Midtown area.
Okay.
Washington.
One question.
Ms. Washington.
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry. Give her a pay raise.
Out of sight, out of mind. Huh? I'd
Thank
like
you.
to know. I like the proposal. I'd just like to know what type of cost are we looking at roughly with what we've been presented?
Well, Ms. Washington, this proposal, or at least the outline, he's estimating that it may cost somewhere in that neighborhood about $15,000, just shy of $15,000.
Okay, so where would that fit in our budget?
It isn't budgeted today.
Okay.
We would have to budget for it either for 2023, 24, or we would have to ask for a budget amendment.
Okay. I like that. The sooner the better.
Okay.
Somebody said they want to chime in. Okay. You wanted something else?
I guess I just wanted to ask in terms of gathering database for the Midtown. Are all businesses required to have a permit to operate?
A BTR, business tax receipt.
Right.
But
So is that-
unfortunately, they don't all have them.
Okay. Okay.
Okay. I've got a few questions. All right. So the finished product will be what?
The finished product will be a database that we all can access.
Okay.
You know, if we want to get the word out on events that we're having, if we want to survey the businesses, if we want to contact the businesses, you'll have all of their information at your disposal. Only time you won't have that is someone moves out. They're no longer there.
Right.
But we'll know all of the property owners. So on a yearly basis, we'll probably have to update the database
Right.
just in case, you know, someone sells their property or businesses are no longer there. So, but for the most part, I mean, it is a valuable tool to have, because when I'm working with the Downtown Development Board or the Redevelopment Board in downtown, if we want to get a survey done, I mean, it's just
Right.
I mean, we sent out a survey on a Monday. We asked for results by Friday, and we'll have them by Saturday.
Okay.
It is that easy.
Right. Yeah, it's there is no doubt this is something that's needed. I just want to make sure that it has more data than less. You follow what I'm saying? A lot of the information that I'm interested in having in there is things like, what's the current property value? What kind of taxes they paid? This public information, but it needs to be in there.
Well, that won't be in there.
That won't be in there.
No.
It won't be where.
I mean, we can, in this proposal.
Right, and that's what I'm
Yeah.
saying. I know this.
Yeah.
I know this. But this is just Sean Collins talking about, just putting my data hat on. I'm like, that's useful information for someone who's interested in developing in this area. If we're going to go ahead and start this process, may as well get as much bang as a buck. I know $15,000, but we also have a top-notch GIS department that can kind of pool in the resources with this. I'm not saying they ain't got enough to do, but this right here would be something simple for them to do. You can go to Google Earth, a lot of the information is either already been codified through the census or something. There's just someone who knows how to push the right buttons to put the stuff together. But like I said, I'd rather err on the side of too much information than not enough. Because I'm not just looking at this information just for the sake of having it, you know. Even though this is literally part of the strategic plan. I'm sure you all know this. It's an action item in your strategic plan that says it'll be a GIS database for business owners. It's specifically written down in there. And so we may as well do it right if we're going to do it at all. And so, you know, $15,000, I think maybe sit down with the GIS department to find out what additional time and resources will be needed to may have to add to that $15,000. But that would just be my recommendation, because folk, we need this. I mean, I don't know if there's any other. The problem you're gonna have is that you're gonna probably have some of the other CRAs interested in doing this stuff. Well, that's not my problem.
Oh, they have it already.
Yeah. So I'm saying Midtown needs to be the leader on this thing. Maybe they'll do it right. Because like I've always envisioned being able to pull up a map and putting that arrow on that map on that piece of property, and it comes up and says, you know, Midtown Cafe, owner such and such, established this year. You know, they serve this kind of delicacies, whatever. I mean, that's specific, folk. You know, why not? I'm willing to tell me. Do you have an issue with that?
No.
We have to start somewhere,
Yeah.
but I think the information that you're asking would not be in the initial,
Right.
for the mere fact it would take much longer to develop what we really want to start working with, the tool that we want to start working with. And at the same time, it's going to cost more. So then we got to figure out where the money is going to come from.
Right.
I like what we have. I think we need to go with it. Work with Mr. Thomas. Let's get whatever the initial project, and we can always add on or
Right.
make the other one a separate document altogether.
Yeah, I agree. As long as we, I guess, have it as if not a short-term goal, of some kind of midterm or,
Right.
you know, some kind of
I
goal
concur.
to achieve for. Yeah.
Chairman, you
Shepherd.
piqued a question that popped into my brain. Who will have access to this?
Good question. I don't know how we would, at the moment, I would need to check with our GIS department, check with marketing. Right now, with Downtown Development Authority, Keith DeGold Associates, they're in control of the database. I do believe our marketing department also has access to it. I'm quite sure they do.
This is why this links back to what I had initially asked about. If they have a website, why can't we post it into, put a link into our city site
And
to bring up their menu or
no, that's a very good point. And what Mr. Gold has offered to help create the website as well.
Yeah, he did.
Not a cost here. He's just helping us to create a website. So
We haven't had the opportunity to discuss that with the redevelopment department. There are potential First Amendment issues with linking to businesses. So I'm not saying it can't be done, but we need to look at it.
Okay. That's fair enough.
And Mr. Chair, we can build on what you're talking about. We can start out here and just build on the database that you're talking about. That certainly is doable.
Okay. I appreciate that. Yeah. Do we need to take any action on this right here?
No,
Are
we
good?
got
Okay.
we got the consensus that we're heading in the right direction.
Thank you. All right. We're ready for item 10B.
Oh, yes. Item 10B was with regarding Midtown Food Truck Rally. The event promoter for the food truck rally that we hold in the downtown on Magnolia every month, this is past Friday or the first Friday of the month of February, we've had the most food trucks ever. It was 17 food trucks on Magnolia. Actually, he had 31 food trucks that wanted to come.
Okay.
But he had to cut it down to 17. So, and I've talked to him in the past about, why not try and do something like this in Midtown? And so and the event promoter has a lot going on, but I believe now he realizes that, we can really maximize the synergy in Daytona Beach. We shouldn't allow just Magnolia to be the only location for food trucks. Let's look at some other locations. And so the conversation now is, okay, is Midtown ready for a food truck rally? And so, and he would want to help us to create the food truck rally somewhere in Midtown. And so I'm bringing this issue before everyone tonight to just let you know, think about when you would like to have a food truck rally, where you would like to have this food truck rally. I know the summer is coming up. Probably we wouldn't be considering doing anything during the summer, but maybe starting out in the fall.
What was the date that Charles Cherry's project was coming?
It was going to be the end of April.
And we have a seafood festival that's coming up as well.
That's that last weekend in April, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yes.
Any thoughts? Sorry.
I was actually thinking if we could do it a lot sooner than that and see if we can
Yeah.
fast track it to maybe spring break in March.
Me too.
Well, here's the deal. We got to find where. We got to determine where. I mean, there are some areas, that you all know, you've been thinking about, but wherever it is, I think we need to have, if you can appoint someone from, the board to go out with staff and the event promoter to walk the avenue and determine what's the best location for this food truck rally. Is it Lincoln and Dr. Bethune? Is it Joe Harris Park? Where?
Is there a limit to how many food trucks? So you said that he wanted 31 food trucks wanted to be a part of it initially. Will there be a limit to how many food trucks will be able to participate?
It all depends on the area. Like Magnolia, he got 17 food trucks on the Magnolia Street, and that's all it could take. So you have to look at where you're going to, how once you've determined a location, how many trucks can you fit in that location?
Ken, we didn't have a chance to talk about this idea before, but we need to hold off before we have the board appoint a member to do a tour with you. The board can't do a walking tour because of sunshine law issues that I mentioned that apply to this board because you have final decision-making on certain land use applications. Generally, under the sunshine law, where a board is subject to the sunshine law and delegates a task to a specific member, that member now has to implement that task in accordance with the sunshine law.
Right.
So I don't know how that affects this. It's, again, something I need to research, and if I can be permitted to do that research and then follow up with Ken, we'll get together on that.
Can we do this concurrently? We can make a decision on a couple of things. Where we would like to hold some food truck rallies and also appoint someone with the understanding that that has to be guided by what Mr. Gross researches, what our responsibilities are.
I think you should hold off on appointing somebody until I've completed my.
Tell me, that's the point. I'm not challenging, just, I don't understand.
Because-
Everything will be contingent upon being allowed based on your research.
Yeah, I understand that, Mr. Chair, but I give legal advice. I'm not the decision maker or the traffic cop, if you will. So I don't want to be the decision maker to tell the board member they can't do it. I would report back to this board or to Ken with my conclusion, and then I would also let the board member know too. I mean, I'm fine with, if you're understanding the limitations on my ability to give the advice.
This is real simple. I mean, I tell you this all the time. Your job is to tell us to stay within the Constitution, the bylaws, and the ordinances.
Yeah, if you want
And
to make a tentative
Yes,
subject
this
to
is a
a thumbs
no-brainer
up.
here. We could do that with the contingency that it's all based on whether or not you give us recommendation that we're not violating anything.
Yeah.
That's a no-brainer.
Okay, I don't think I understood the original.
Yeah, that's a no-brainer. Yeah, okay. So, all right, so we got the two things. And I got a couple of ideas as far as location, but I was kind of shooting around. So we're gonna make some recommendations on some locations for food trucks and some times, some opportunities. You say do it as soon as possible. I agree wholeheartedly.
Yeah.
I've always said we don't have enough events in Midtown.
Next week, right?
So, yeah, exactly.
No, I was thinking the spring break that the kids start out of school. I believe it's the
Middle of
16th or
March,
17th.
I agree.
Yeah, yeah. I was thinking that time period.
I think that's a good time period too, and I think if you put it in a certain space, if we were able to do it before summer, even the college students would be able to partake of that. And I think anything that we can do to try to uplift the community with all that's gone on in the last few years, and people losing their homes and all this other stuff, we need to try to do it as soon as we can, I think.
Would there be a possibility perhaps of doing a 4th Street event, like you go down one street, down one block, have your food trucks, go down the next block, do like a little tour of whatever area we decide upon. And then they can see the different trucks and what they offer.
It just takes more planning, and what you're saying is, it sounds good, but it takes more planning because, I don't know if the Captain Collins, we have to close off streets.
Yeah, I was going to ask about that as well.
If we keep it on one street and we're not blocking intersections, it just makes it easier for our traffic department, who's in control of blocking off streets.
He can handle it. He's tough.
Yeah. So if we can, on one of the back streets,
Yeah.
and if there is a recommendation to try to do something during spring break, then that puts us in the gear to get with an event promoter, and I got to work with Ben and try to put together a contract and those sorts of things. But that's stuff that you don't have to worry about. We'll deal with it.
Okay, so let's put a ribbon on this thing.
Let's marinate.
So, let's discuss when the time that we want to do this, okay? And it's not time, there's a time, and then at the end of the word time is S on it, because it could be more than just one time, okay? And the second thing is we're gonna talk about the locations, recommended locations, okay? So, Ms. Bonner.
I agree with Ms. Hardy. I know spring break is right around the corner, but something to me that would be able to occur maybe before May at least, And I don't know. And the reason I'm saying that, I guess, because I'm at a university where there are students and they do spend a lot of money as well as the rest of the community. Maybe that's the only reasoning that I have with that. As far as locations, somewhere near Lincoln or George Ingram, those are the only two that are popping to my surface right now.
Okay.
Or MLK, some area that people would be able to easily get to.
Okay.
I
Ms.
say
Richardson.
spring break is perfect.
Okay.
And I also think you could do it on one street. If the street was big enough, you can run them on one side and you can run them on the other.
That's good.
And that could be George Ingram. You could line them on one side of George Ingram, Powell Center, where the Powell Center and everything is, run them on one side, run them on the other. So people can walk, they can go across. You've already blocked off the sections and stuff. I think it would be wonderful. I think it would be beneficial for the community. It would be great.
And you say spring break is mid-March? or whatever.
I know
believe
ours
it's,
is like
I
March
can tell
6th
you.
or
I think
something.
it's right after what?
March 6th, ours started.
It's
That week.
actually the week of the 13th through the 17th.
So mid.
Okay, so that would be feasible. Yeah, ours would be back by that time.
Okay.
13th to 17th.
Ms. Shepherd.
I think it's all
I'm sorry,
wonderful
wrong.
so far. The only thing
Looking
that
at the wrong month. Well, yeah, it's the same thing, 13th to the 17th of March, yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
that's good.
The only thing that I would add to this developing idea is maybe we could do a street festival type theme. You know, with the trucks on both sides. If we're going to block off that street, why don't we just incorporate the whole block, the whole street, and do a street festival?
And you're good with the time?
Yes, absolutely.
All right. Any particular area?
Tomorrow, right down the block from my house.
And Ms.
George
Richardson, Mr. Chair.
Yes, sir.
I know Ms. Richardson, it's a great idea to block off George
Yeah.
Ingram, but that's a
mess.
big ask.
Clarify, yeah.
So,
It is big enough. I don't think you have
We'll be looking at one of the little local streets.
We'll discuss it.
I say go big or go home.
Listen, I was actually thinking MLK,
That's just
so.
like ISB.
Right.
Yeah, we're gonna try to do a local one. Yeah.
Go.
All right.
Well, I mean, I was looking at my calendar and I think you said the spring break ends what, the 17th?
Yeah.
So that means that all the students from Cookman would be what, gone?
No, they'll be back. I
be
think
back.
Bethune-Cookman starts on March 6th through, I believe, 13th. So they would be back by
back.
that week.
Okay.
We sometimes have the same as the school system and sometimes we don't, but.
Oh, they're gone
ours
because of
begins
bike
March
week.
6th, yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
I mean, I'll suggest that we look at the week of, spring break. And I'll concur with Ms. Bond. I think we need to look at Lincoln and MMB.
Okay.
I think that's a good area, and then it won't be too far for the students.
Okay.
Yeah.
Lincoln and MB.
Okay.
Miss Hardy.
I initially, but he shut that down already. I was actually thinking of all of MLK, so. That's why I asked how many trucks.
And I talked to engineering and he said cutting out the major thoroughfare.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah. It ain't happening.
Oh, well.
Yeah.
I would agree with what you said.
Okay, spring break. Okay. And what area?
Same
Okay,
street you said, yeah.
All right, I've got nothing to add.
Now, let me ask you, do we also have to have a discussion with other businesses that may be in that area? Let them know in advance so there's no conflict?
Yeah, we gotta get a permit. We gotta do all the
Okay.
things that you typically have to do. We got
Yeah, I mean,
contracts and.
technically, in order to do a street closing under a permit that staff can issue, I don't have the code provision in front of me. You either have to have the consent of 50% or more of the abutting property owners. Now, the commission can also approve outdoor events in public spaces like city right-of-way through an agreement and flex those rules, but you're still gonna want to get the buy-in from the adjacent businesses.
I could just tell you, and it's all depends on who you're talking about, who you're talking to, and what kind of event you're talking about. Sometimes closing off a street is not really the best way to do it because you're missing a lot of traffic that are passing through that avenue that would say, "Oh, I didn't know this is going on," and pull off to the side. And you're talking about George Ingram is one of the most busiest avenues. It's a four-lane facility. And it's a bridge facility. You can get on that sucker and go all the way across to the beach side. So you're getting a lot of traffic. And I can tell you firsthand, there was an event that was held on one of the properties there I don't know how long ago it was, about 6 months ago. Yeah. Urban White's property. Yeah, they got a lot of traffic that was, just passing through, and they saw the event going on. It was a cookout. And they got a lot of traffic otherwise. So I'm not a big fan of closing off the street, but if that's the will, I don't care. I just think sometimes you can kind of lose. Because the people if you close off the street, the people that are coming there, in most cases, those are the only ones who knew about it. But anyway, I guess I've got nothing else to add. I like these right here. and I
Get
think
Ms.
this-
Washington.
Oh, Ms.
Hold on a
Washington,
second.
yes.
I'm here.
Yes. This.
Don't leave
I'm
me out.
sorry, I'm sorry. Ms. Washington.
I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
When we were talking about a place, is Cypress Street Park out of the question?
No,
No, it isn't?
no, that's, yeah.
It's
I like
easy- It would be easier. You don't have to block any streets.
Right.
That's my point. That's my point. And people park around it, park down the street. I'm a member of the Juneteenth committee, and I know they park anywhere they can find a park for that festival. And I think they would do the same thing for this event.
I think that's a great idea.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The only thing, Ms. Washington, with that is the marketing of getting the word out. You'll have more visibility if you're adjacent to the college, like on Lincoln. Everybody sees it, food trucks.
Right.
So we would certainly need to, with this, in March, we would certainly have to do a mass marketing effort to, drive people to Cypress Park.
Well, one of the things I talked about when we started the discussion is that the time part had a parentheses and an S around it. In other words, we're not just trying to get one time to do it. So maybe the initial time we do it will be spring break, and then to give time to market for Cypress Street, or maybe some other time a couple of months later or whatever and stuff. And so that would be, I think, a happy medium, Ms. Washington, if we could do it that way. Because we probably wouldn't have enough time to market for Cypress Street right now if we're trying to do it in spring break. But help me out. Do you think that's possible, staff?
Yeah, it'll be tough. It'll be tough. I mean, we can get flyers out, get our marketing teams at the city manager's office, they could send information out, but again, you need more lead time. But if you all are in agreement, then we can look at the Cherry Center as the location. Then we have to put everything in motion of getting Ben to help us get this agreement, and more than likely we'll try to take it before the city commission the first meeting in March. That'll give us a week ahead of time, and then we could try to make this happen for you.
Yeah. So let's decide on which location we want to do. I'll rehash all the different locations. Ms. Bonner was interested in Lincoln, George Ingram, MLK. Ms. Richardson with George Ingram. Ms. Shepherd, George Ingram. Reverend Magala was Lincoln, MLB. I think it's the Cypress Streets as well, right? Yeah. And same was Ms. Hardy. And Ms. Washington she's the one recommended Cypress Street. And so, looks like we got 3 Cypress and 3 Lincoln and George Ingram. So
You can take George Ingram out. Right.
But okay, so we got that out. Let's someone make a recommendation, a motion.
Before we do that, when you say Lincoln, where are you specifically talking about on Lincoln? Are you talking about between the college and what is it, Cypress and
ISB.
I think, Rene, we're looking at anywhere between George Ingram and ISB.
Okay.
Oh,
Okay.
Yeah, that was.
Well, you only need that small area. You don't need that that whole stretch.
Right.
You wouldn't even need to go as far as Dr. Bethune Boulevard. That's too far. You could take the from George Ingram probably
South.
down to the cafeteria or
Past
J
State
Flow.
Street, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
Okay. So that would be,
that's Lincoln.
okay, and then the other opportunity or the other choice would be,
They mentioned MMB, and then the other one was
Cypress
basically
Park.
Cypress.
Can you hear that, Ms. Washington?
Uh-huh.
Okay. Yes, Ms. Shepherd?
My question is, how many trucks will these locations be able to accommodate?
I would venture to say, I would be looking at no more than 10 trucks at the most.
Okay, and this is our kickoff that we're talking
Yeah,
about.
that's the kickoff, and he would
Okay.
have, and our, working with the event promoter who does it downtown, I'm hoping that date doesn't conflict with something that they're already going to, because these food trucks, they jump around.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Before we take any step, y'all want to say anything?
No, just letting, I say no, but yes. Bike Week, and this is just for reference purposes, Bike Week starts March 3rd and ends March 12th. So this would be the first weekend after
Right.
Bike Week.
Yeah, exactly.
That Saturday.
Yes. Okay, I'll take a motion. Where do we go for the, what's the location?
Come on, Renee.
well, since it's only 10 trucks and not all 30,
Oh, no.
we want all 30 the next time.
Right.
We can, I make a motion that we do Lincoln.
Okay.
We can do Lincoln. Just to get a feel for how it's going to kind of come out, and then we can go all gusto in the next time.
I second.
Okay. We'll have some discussion.
And I think you also need to include what the date, which is.
Well, that's the second one. We're gonna, all right, we'll do that first, yeah. Do the location, then we do the stat. All right. So any more discussion on, what's on the motion right now is to do it on Lincoln Street. Basically from George Ingram to the cafeteria or someplace before you get to MMB.
And that's the kickoff, right?
Yes, that's the kickoff.
Okay.
Yes. So we good?
Yes.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say like sign. Motion carries. Now we'll talk about the time. So is there a motion on the time we want to do it on?
Mr. Chair, Magnolia Street food truck rallies on Friday. They start at 5:30.
No, I'm talking about the date.
The date,
Yeah,
okay.
That's what I'm talking about. No.
Okay.
Not literally the time, just the date. And what was discussed was spring break, basically. That's going down the road. Ms. Bonner said before May, then everybody else said basically spring break. That's what I heard. So
do we want to do a Friday or do we want to do a Saturday?
well, we can get into that detail. So this is a one-day event?
Yeah, it's just a one-day event. One-day event, 2.5 hours.
Really?
That's it.
Oh.
Yeah, I've been to the one down there.
The,
Wow.
Miss Michelle, you said the bike week would end on what day?
Sunday the 12th.
Okay.
And then the following Saturday is the 18th. That Friday is the 17th.
Right.
17th, 18th.
And spring break is the 13th through the 17th.
I think for the universities is the 6th, but for the general,
Yeah.
that's that time period.
What's the 17th and 18th again? What was that?
The 17th is Friday.
No,
and
okay, you just said
18th
the
is
date.
Saturday.
All right. And spring break begins.
The 13th.
Through the 17th.
So the 18th would technically still be in spring break. They would not go back to school until Monday.
Correct.
Because that's a Saturday. And that would be a great day.
The 18th.
Like a kind of a back to school kind of, getting them prepared for back to school.
Okay.
And have a fun day before they actually, they'll have Sunday to recover and still then go back. So the 18th is a great day.
Is that a motion? Is that a motion?
Yes, that's a motion for March 18th.
March 18th.
I second that.
Second.
Ms. Washington seconded. Any
Yes.
discussion? There being none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Motion carries. So we're going to push for some hours on Saturday, the 18th, to be determined by staff and the promoter.
Okay.
Stuff. And also understand this is contingent upon Mr. Gross finding out.
We don't need that anymore, Mr. Chair.
Okay.
You all have decided on a
Okay.
location.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay. So we don't need to do the tour nor either.
No, we just need to work out the money part now.
All right.
That's easy.
You made it.
All right. I like that.
I like that.
I like that. All right. We're into public comments, correct? And I have one. I've been using it. All right. Miss, where did I put it? Yeah. Come on. Come on, Miss Ruby. You're on there. I want to make sure I had it right hand.
Ann Ruby, 137 Park Avenue. I had two things tonight. One is if you want to think outside the box on building housing, which is, of course, we have to do because the need is desperate. Maybe we need to start thinking about building triple deckers. When you have a lot that'll hold a single family, it'll hold a triple decker. Everybody's resistant to that, but that puts 3 families in one lot. And if you built them 6 feet off the ground or 8, so you could park your car underneath, flooding would be less likely. And you could also build them with factory-built houses so that you get the foundation built, and then you come and the house goes up like that, and it's better construction, and they're ready to move in. And I think we need to start looking at that. And I think one way we could do that would be to have the city look at doing pilot programs like that on vacant lots that they own. Because it's going to be hard to convince a private developer to do that. But if the city were willing to do that on like 10 lots, you could house 30 families and probably relatively pretty quickly. So that's, I think, something that we could consider. And there's resistance to putting triple deckers in single family neighborhoods, but I'm from Boston. I lived that life, and it's perfectly fine once you're used to it. Anyhow, and then the second thing is the database. Databases that was my life for 30 years. If you get a static table of data, a snapshot, and you don't keep that updated, it is useless. Once a year isn't enough. Database maintenance is critical to having the database be useful. So the database should be tied into the BTR, should be tied into any data sources within the city, and somebody is going to need to follow up with businesses. It cannot be just once a year. You won't be getting useful information. So if the contract needs, I don't know if he's going to contract to do the maintenance or if he can outline maintenance standards for you guys, but somebody's going to have to maintain it and on active basis. It's like he's going to give you a person dressed in their underpants, and you want dressed up data, which is great, so you get the dressed up data, but then you got to make sure the clothes are clean all the time. It's not enough to just stand there in the clothes you came in. You got to put on your coat, change your things with seasons, and it's really, really important. And I hope that wasn't too confusing an analogy. Thank you.
That's good points. I mean, again, I'm heavy on economies of scale. You can kind of kill 2 birds with 1 stone because we've got one of the top-notch universities right in the heart of Midtown. And there's students that are studying all kind of GIS and business, trying to be business managers and stuff. That's a nice little internship, whatever. And they learning government at the same time. And so it's a great point. But we also have ways to get that done and not have to pay an arm and leg for it. So I like the point, and so just some of us to start thinking about. Thank you. All right, we'll go around the room now. We're under any more public comments? I only got that one there. Nope. All right, so now we're under board comments. We'll start with Ms. Hardy.
All right, so I have one announcement. So this past Saturday, I had one of my club teams competed in our annual Youth of the Year event. It's a national program that BGCA does every year. So one of my teams that actually lives in the Midtown area that attends our Boys and Girls Club competed at the Hard Rock against the other 7 clubs within our Boys and Girls Club of Volusia Flagler County organization. And on February 22nd at the LPGA Clubhouse, they will be announcing the winner, so you're all invited.
Wow, okay.
It will be at 4 p.m.
4 p.m.
Is that can y'all send us a reminder of that if it's not too much of a problem? Because I'd like to attend.
I actually have an invite as well, so I'll
Please.
email it.
Okay, I like that. Anything else?
No,
I like
that's
that.
it. Great meeting.
I'm gonna go to Miss Shepherd first. I mean Miss Shepherd, Miss Washington. Make sure I don't forget her this time. So hold on, bro.
Yeah, that's okay.
Great
Yes, ma'am.
meeting. We got a lot accomplished. A little long, but we got a great deal accomplished. It was worthwhile.
Thank you, thank you. Hopefully next
Move
time you'll
on.
be here.
Yes, I will.
Okay. Mr. Magala.
It's been a great meeting, and I'm excited, looking forward to this database for Midtown business, owners. I think that will be great for us. And I also want to make sure that we continuously address the issue of flooding in Midtown. We don't wait until, it's hurricane season to deal with it. I think we need to continue to do that.
Amen.
Yeah.
Ms. Shepherd.
I would like to second what everybody said. Thank you.
All right. Ms. Richardson.
This was a wonderful meeting. I enjoyed it, and I look forward to working on the housing issues, on having the presentations from all of the other people that we want to invite.
Right.
I'm excited about the food truck, and anything that you guys need us to do, please don't hesitate, because I want to be involved with everything.
Yes.
So thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Bonner.
It was a very productive and exciting meeting. You felt as though solutions and things were coming forth. So I'm in agreement with everyone else. I was pleased with the meeting and the outcome.
Yeah. And on that same point, I'd like to make a recommendation that we add something to our regular agenda at the end, where we kind of do a recap of what's, particularly when we've got items that we're pushing forth for the next meeting, so that so it'll help staff out, and it'll end up being a part of the minutes. So like this meeting, we one of the recaps is that we made a decision on the food truck, the place and the location. We got a date, the whole 9 yards. That's very specific. Next meeting, we're gonna be talking about, what do we talk about?
Darn Eagle.
Yeah, the Eagle, right. We've got, the staff is gonna go out. You see how quickly I forgot? So that's the purpose of putting that specifically as an agenda item on every agenda, a recap of the meeting, to go over what we'll be planning for the next meeting. Because it helps you all, staff, because the last thing you want is for a member to say, hey, you're supposed to come back. And we don't want to do that. So if we can add that as an item to agenda, recap from the day's meeting and what we're going to be talking about the next meeting and stuff. I just think it'll be helpful. But other than that, that's all I had. I appreciate it. Ms. Washington, I appreciate you chiming in, and we are adjourned.
Amen. Good night.